My name is Claire Morgan, and the morning my husband ended our marriage, I was holding the appointment packet that might have saved it. The packet was pale green. The envelope Daniel pushed toward me was brown. His mother, Vivian, sat at my kitchen table as if she had been invited to witness a business transaction. She stirred sugar into coffee, although she had always complained that I made it too weak. "You have to accept what the doctors have already told you," she said. Daniel still has time to become a father. For a moment, I noticed absurd things. Rain sliding down the windows, the clock above the stove showing 7:18, Daniel's wet shoes leaving dark marks on the floor I had cleaned the night before. Then I looked at the envelope. "What is this?" Daniel kept his eyes on his hands. He was 44, an obstetrician at Rivergate Medical Center in Richmond, Virginia, and one of the calmest men I had ever seen in an emergency. Frightened parents trusted him. Nurses trusted him. I had trusted him for 13 years. "Divorce papers," he said. Vivian stopped stirring. I did not open them. "Our fertility assessment is Tuesday." Daniel exhaled. "Claire, we've had assessments. I have had assessments. Blood tests, scans, injections, 3 procedures. You have never completed yours." Vivian lifted her cup. "My son delivers babies every day. He knows perfectly well that nothing is wrong with him." I turned to Daniel, waiting for him to correct her. "Mom," he murmured. That was all. One quiet word designed to sound like resistance without requiring her to stop. We had once been happy in ways so ordinary that I had assumed they were permanent. We spent Sunday mornings walking beside the James River. We argued about what to order from the Chinese restaurant near our house and then chose the same dishes every time. Before we married, we talked about 2 children. Daniel wanted a son who loved baseball. I wanted a daughter with my father's green eyes. For 6 years, we believed there was no hurry. Then I became pregnant. I hid a pair of yellow baby socks inside Daniel's medical bag. When he found them, he sat on the bedroom floor and cried. At 10 weeks, the heartbeat stopped. The second pregnancy ended before 8 weeks. The third lasted 11. After the last miscarriage, Daniel returned to work 2 days later. I told myself hospitals needed him. It was easier than admitting he could comfort strangers through the grief he refused to share with me. The year before our divorce, my specialist, Dr. Sophia Ramirez, diagnosed diminished ovarian reserve. She explained it carefully. I had fewer remaining eggs than expected for my age. Pregnancy could be difficult, but not impossible. Vivian had driven us home from that appointment. By the time we reached her neighborhood, difficult had become almost hopeless. Within a month, she was telling relatives I could not have children. That morning, she finally said the word she had been saving. "My son cannot sacrifice the rest of his life to a barren woman." Daniel stared at the table. The silence after her sentence did something her cruelty could not. It answered every question I still had about my marriage. I placed the green clinic packet on top of the divorce envelope. "Who told you I was infertile?" Vivian's expression remained smooth. "Someone familiar with your case." "Who?" "A nurse." "Name her." Her eyes narrowed. "This defensiveness is exactly why Daniel couldn't discuss things with you." I almost laughed. "No one at that clinic would discuss my records with you." Daniel reached toward me. I moved my hand. "I'm 44, he said. "I still want a family." That sentence hurt more than the papers. I had shared 13 years, 3 pregnancies, 3 hospital bracelets, and 3 small graves in my heart with this man. Yet he had decided none of that made me family. "You had one," I said. I took the envelope but signed nothing. 2 hours later, I called attorney Lena Park from my car outside a coffee shop on Broad Street. She told me to photograph every page, protect my accounts, save every message, and communicate in writing. By Friday, I was living in a furnished apartment with beige walls and a balcony facing a parking garage. Daniel kept the house because it was close to Rivergate. He had already moved his salary, changed the household payments, and met with a lawyer 3 weeks before telling me. That preparation disturbed me most. He had eaten the dinners I cooked and kissed my forehead before work, while quietly removing me from his future 1 bank transfer at a time. I worked as a physical therapist at James River Rehabilitation. The morning after I moved, my first patient was Henry Bell, a 78-year-old retired school principal recovering from a stroke. Henry disliked his walker, his therapy belt, and any instruction containing the words, "Take your time." "On 3, I said. "Lean forward." He tried to stand, wobbled, and dropped back into the chair. "Floor shifted," he muttered. "Of course it did." He studied my face. "You look worse than I walk." "Thank you, Henry. I mean on the inside." I adjusted his belt so he would not see my eyes filling. He gripped the chair again, then paused. Everybody tells a person to get back up. Almost nobody asks what knocked them down. 4 days later, I went to the fertility appointment alone. Dr. Ramirez reviewed my results and asked when I had last had a period. When I told her, she grew quiet and ordered another test. That afternoon, I was unpacking dishes when she called. "Claire, are you sitting down?" "I am now. Your pregnancy test is positive. Based on your dates, you're almost 5 weeks." The plate in my hand slipped into the cardboard box without breaking. I could hear cars moving through the garage outside. Somewhere upstairs, a child was running across a floor. The world continued while mine changed shape again. The baby had been conceived before Daniel filed, before Vivian occupied my kitchen, before my husband told me he needed to leave me to build a family. I opened Daniel's contact on my phone. My thumb hovered over the call button. Then I remembered how he had watched his mother reduce my life to one word. I locked the screen. I did not feel triumphant. After 3 losses, even joy felt dangerous. I told no one that night except Lena. The next morning, Dr. Ramirez reminded me that diminished ovarian reserve was not sterility. She called the pregnancy high risk because I was 42 and had miscarried before, but she also told me something I repeated whenever fear woke me after midnight. "Statistics describe groups," she said. "They do not write the ending for one woman." She asked whether Daniel had ever completed his testing. No. For the first time, her professional calm cracked. "Not once. Pride can be very patient. At home, I began an email to him. Before I finished 2 sentences, a message arrived from his attorney instructing me to direct all communication through counsel. 10 minutes later, Vivian wrote, "Please do not drag this out. Daniel deserves a real family." I forwarded both messages to Lena and deleted my unfinished email. "He will have to be informed," she said when I told her about the pregnancy. "I know, but I need to hear a heartbeat first. I can't survive another conversation in which he decides whether I'm lying before I know if this baby will stay." Lena understood. We agreed to wait until the end of the first trimester, unless a medical or legal reason required earlier notice. The weeks that followed were not dramatic. They were lonely and practical. I bought prenatal vitamins with coupons. I kept crackers beside the bed. I carried groceries upstairs in small bags. Some nights I fell asleep wearing my work clothes. Other nights I lay awake, afraid that ordering a crib would tempt fate. Henry noticed the crackers in my pocket. "Morning sickness?" he asked. I stared at him. He smiled. "I raised 3 daughters. I'm damaged, not blind." I made him promise not to tell anyone. During therapy one afternoon, he said he had spent years trying to recover the exact life he had before his wife died. Did it work? No. That life was gone. He planted his cane firmly. So I stopped chasing it and started looking after the one that remained. At 12 weeks, Dr. Ramirez switched on the Doppler. Steak filled the room. My breath stopped. Then I heard it, fast, steady, stubborn. I had heard 3 heartbeats disappear. This one sounded like a tiny horse running toward me. I cried until the paper beneath me was wet. That afternoon, Lena sent Daniel a formal notice stating that I was pregnant. Conception had occurred before separation, and communication should pass through our attorneys while my doctor managed a high-risk pregnancy. Daniel called 6 times in 1 hour. I answered none of them. 2 weeks later, we met in Lena's office. He looked thinner. He sat across from me but did not remove his coat. "I completed the tests," he said. I waited. Twice. The specialist diagnosed severe male factor infertility. Natural conception is possible but highly unlikely. For several seconds, the ticking wall clock was the only sound in the room. Daniel rubbed his palms together. "I tell patients every day that unlikely doesn't mean impossible. I just never thought I would become the lesson. You had 13 years to ask whether you were part of the problem." He lowered his eyes. "I know. You know now. Before this, you only knew what was easiest for you to believe." He apologized, and I believed he meant it. Sincerity, however, does not make a late apology arrive on time. As he stood, he admitted Vivian had never given him the name of the nurse who supposedly discussed my case. That was when the full truth became clear. She had not misunderstood confidential information. She had invented a source, and Daniel had chosen her invention over my medical records. By 38 weeks, my apartment had become a home. Henry's daughter helped me move to a ground-floor unit. Coworkers gave me a second-hand crib, a repaired rocking chair, and boxes of baby clothes. Every object in the small nursery carried evidence that kindness could come from unexpected people. My appointments remained reassuring. "So far, everything looks good." Dr. Ramirez told me so far became my favorite promise. It did not pretend the future was guaranteed. It simply gave me enough hope for the next day. One humid September evening, after watching Henry walk the full therapy room with only a cane, I stopped at a grocery store near Forest Hill Avenue. The first contraction came while I loaded milk into my trunk. The second came 6 minutes later. The nearest hospital was Rivergate, Daniel's hospital. By the time I reached maternity triage, I could barely speak through the pain. A senior nurse named Ruth Ellis recognized me from hospital functions and helped me onto a bed. The baby's heartbeat filled the room, strong and quick. Then Ruth checked the duty board. Her face changed. "Dr. Morgan is the attending tonight." "No." She nodded. "I'll call Dr. Aisha Coleman." Dr. Coleman was performing an emergency cesarean. I said I would wait, but the baby had other plans. My labor advanced rapidly. During the next contraction, his heart rate dropped, the door opened. Daniel entered in navy scrubs, reading a tablet. When he saw me, he stopped so suddenly that the resident behind him nearly collided with him. "Get someone else," I said. His eyes moved to the monitor. "Dr. Coleman is still in surgery." "I don't care. I understand." His voice stayed controlled. "But your baby's heart rate is dipping, and until she arrives, I'm the most experienced doctor available." I hated that he was right. I hated more that in that moment I needed the man who had abandoned me. Ruth stayed beside me. She asked permission before every examination and explained every touch. Daniel did not call me sweetheart or pretend we were still married. He treated me as a patient whose choices mattered. When a contraction stole my breath, he said, "Claire, look at me." "I don't want to." "I know. Just breathe with me." For one painful moment, we found the rhythm we had practiced years earlier for babies who never came home. Then Dr. Coleman rushed in. I felt relief until she examined me. "The baby is coming now," she said. She looked at Daniel. "Stay, I need another experienced pair of hands." The room narrowed to voices, lights, pressure, and pain. I pushed until my arms shook. Dr. Coleman told me once more. Then a cry cut through everything. Ruth placed a warm, furious little boy against my chest. My son opened his mouth, protested the cold world, and wrapped his fingers around mine. Across the bed, Daniel stood perfectly still. His gaze moved over the baby's dark hair, the cleft in his chin, the shape of one tiny ear. "Claire," he whispered. "Is he mine?" I kissed my son's forehead. "Count backward." Daniel closed his eyes. "You'll receive a DNA test," I added, not because I doubt the truth, because I will never allow you or your mother to question him later. He nodded. "That's fair." The next morning, Vivian arrived carrying balloons and demanding to see her grandson. Security stopped her outside the maternity ward. Lena, who had come to check on me, asked what I wanted. I looked at my sleeping baby. "She does not enter this room." The DNA result arrived 12 days later. Daniel's probability of paternity was greater than 99.99%. He requested one supervised visit. I agreed on 3 conditions. Lena would be present, he would follow my instructions, and Vivian would not come. Daniel arrived early. When I placed our son in his arms, the doctor who had delivered thousands of babies looked terrified. "I've never been afraid to hold one before," he said. "This is the first one whose trust you have to earn." His eyes filled. "I missed almost the entire pregnancy." "Yes. I can't repair that." "No." He studied the baby's face. "But I can stop missing what comes next." For the first time, his promise was not about becoming a father or winning me back. It was about being present for the child already in his arms. Vivian responded by spreading a different story. She told relatives I had hidden the pregnancy for money and revenge. She omitted the divorce papers, her invented nurse, and the word Barren. Then Daniel called to warn me she had found my address through a private investigator. Lena immediately sent a legal notice. Vivian never reached my door, but her attempt finally forced Daniel to confront what he had spent his life excusing. He went to her house and asked for the nurse's name. Vivian offered vague descriptions, changed the subject, and finally admitted there had been no nurse. She had read about diminished ovarian reserve online and decided she understood it. "I was trying to protect you from a lonely future," she said. "No," Daniel answered. "You were terrified of your own loneliness. You used my fear to destroy my marriage." When she accused him of choosing me over his mother, he said, "I'm choosing the truth over the lie I wanted to believe." Months later, my rehabilitation center received a regional award for its fall prevention program. The ceremony was held in Rivergate's ballroom. I considered staying home, but Henry refused to permit it. "You tell me not to hide from difficult ground," he said. "Wear sensible shoes and take your own advice." After I accepted the award, I saw Vivian beside a group of hospital donors. Her smile tightened. "Some people certainly know how to land on their feet," she said loudly. I reached for my purse, then she added, "My poor son wasted 13 years on a woman who could never give him a child. Some women will do anything to hold on to a successful man." "Enough, Mom." Daniel stepped between us. Vivian's face stiffened. "Not here." He looked around the ballroom. "You chose here." The nearby conversations died. "Claire was never diagnosed as infertile," he said. "I refused testing for years. When I finally took it, the serious fertility problem was mine. My mother invented a medical source, and I believed her because blaming my wife protected my pride." Vivian reached for him. "Stop embarrassing us." He stepped away. "I embarrassed us when I filed for divorce instead of facing the truth." She turned on me. "You're enjoying this." "No, Vivian," I said, lifting my purse. "You managed it without my help." Outside, Daniel asked whether his honesty changed anything between us. "It changes who you are becoming," I told him. "It does not change what you did." This time he accepted the answer. Our divorce mediation happened the following spring. I received primary custody during our son's first year. Daniel received gradually increasing time, paid support and medical expenses, and agreed to communicate through a parenting application. When Lena raised Vivian's access, I said my son could know his grandmother, but she would never be alone with him. One insult, one attempt to undermine me, and the visit would end. Daniel agreed without negotiation. Life became ordinary in the best possible way. Our son, whom I named Noah, laughed for the first time while Henry made ridiculous faces at him. His first tooth cost us 3 nights of sleep. Daniel bought an expensive bottle warmer that Noah rejected immediately. Henry warmed the same bottle in a bowl of water, hummed an old song, and fed him in 5 minutes. "I've delivered thousands of babies," Daniel complained. Henry grinned. "Delivering one and negotiating with one are different professions." We all laughed. Not because the past had disappeared, but because new memories had finally begun taking up space beside it. Vivian eventually asked to meet me at Lena's office. She looked smaller than I remembered. At first, she said, "I only wanted what was best for Daniel." I remained silent. She looked down. "That is not an apology, is it?" "No." After her husband died, she explained, she had become terrified that Daniel would build a life in which she had no place. She wanted grandchildren as proof she would never be left behind. My miscarriages and diagnosis became tools she used to justify her fear. "I turned possibility into certainty," she said. "I lied. I judged your worth by something no woman should be judged by. I am sorry. There were no excuses attached this time." "I accept that you are sorry," I said, "but forgiveness is not trust. Every boundary remains." She nodded through tears. It was not redemption. It was accountability, and sometimes that is the only honest beginning available. That summer, Henry completed therapy. He crossed the gym with his cane while the entire staff applauded. Before leaving, he hugged me. "Recovery isn't getting the old life back, Claire. It's discovering the life you still have is worth protecting." A few weeks later, Daniel asked me to sit with him after returning Noah. We met on a bench overlooking the lake at Bird Park. He told me he was in therapy. He had learned how pride and fear had allowed his mother to think for him. Then he asked whether I would consider marriage counseling. "You've become a better father," I said. "You are more honest and you finally stand up to your mother." Hope appeared in his face. "But those things do not make us husband and wife again." He looked across the water. "When I thought you couldn't have children, I stopped believing in us. When I found out you could, I wanted another chance. That is exactly why there can't be one. Noah deserves a father, and I believe you can be a good one. But I deserve a partner who chooses me whether my body gives him a child or not." Daniel's eyes filled, but he did not argue. Accepting my answer was the most loving thing he had done for me in years. The following spring, Noah took his first steps on the grass at Bird Park. Daniel knelt on one side of him and I knelt on the other, one step, then another. Noah dropped onto his diaper and laughed. Daniel and I reached for him at the same time, and he caught one finger from each of us. For a moment, we were not a broken marriage or a repaired romance. We were 2 imperfect people loving the same little boy. I once thought revenge would mean watching Daniel and Vivian suffer. I was wrong. Revenge was quieter than that. It was signing my own lease, hearing my son laugh in a peaceful home, accepting help without mistaking it for weakness. It was building a life that did not require anyone else to confirm my value. Daniel lost a wife because he believed fear instead of truth. Vivian lost the control she had mistaken for love. And I gained something I had never expected, not victory, freedom. Someone else's fear may explain why they diminish you, abandon you, or call you broken. But their fear does not get to become your identity. I learned that on the morning my husband gave me divorce papers, and every day since, I have made sure my son learns it too.